Fucking forgot to space name. Rossman. Yeah. Something. Well, dude. Okay. No, no one. Mandigo. Okay.
So good morning, Lewis. How are you, sir?
Good morning. How are you doing, Leonard?
Good.
Good to
Good. We're very excited to be speaking with you today, and everything else, of course.
I figured I'd answer just a lot of the questions that people had, since there's a lot of. I've been answering a lot of questions on Reddit, but a lot of them I'm answering the same question about 50 or 100 times.
Yeah, over and
So
over.
if I
and
see
over
any
again.
questions show up that are very common ones, I wanted to go over them here.
I'm sure there will be answers to questions and all that, but we also don't have some answers to the questions because we are just currently in the beginning stages of responding to this thing, and we actually have some more meetings to have on that. What Mr. Rossman has asked me to do is to help him find the right attorney and help him make sure that he gets the right representation. And so what I'm doing is acting sort of as an ambassador between his situation, which includes all of the facts about his YouTube channel and what he does for a living and all that. And I'll be able to translate that to the legalese that I need to speak to the right trademark litigant and say, hey, here's the situation I'm dealing with. And hopefully between the two or three of us, or three or four of us, we'll be able to challenge one of the largest capitalized companies in the world.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So I guess a lot of the questions that I've been asking are, how do you import these? What were they advertised as? Why don't you import? Why don't you just buy them as opposed to just to get everything run up?
Yeah.
If I go to an Apple store and I say, here is $100,000 and I have some batteries in my store, they will say, depending on the age of the machine, some of the batteries I offered are still offered. Some of the batteries that I purchased are batteries that you, even if you're an Apple authorized service provider, if you, as an Apple authorized service provider, say, here's $100,000, please give me batteries so I can serve these customers. They say, no, it's vintage. We can't help you with that, which is something that actually just changed 1 or 2 days ago, which is pretty interesting. But that's something that for the last 5 or 10 years, it's old enough. Even if you're authorized, you cannot get access to it. Now, I understand that there are a lot of, because people have been saying, do you care about the quality of what you're importing? Because these are batteries. They could be terrible. They could have bad life. They could explode, as I'm well aware of. But one of the things is that this is a problem that was created by the company by saying, we're not going to sell you these parts. If you're authorized, we're still not going to sell them to you if it's past a certain age, even though customers still want this stuff. So what I will do is, there are several classes of batteries. So there's usually complete knockoff, trash. They weigh 150 original. They die in 2 or 3 months. They're everywhere on eBay and Amazon, and nobody wants these. Then there are pulls from machines that were, let's say, demos. The stuff that's sitting in the store when Radio Shack used to exist that you could walk in and try out. These have virtually no cycles on them, and those are used pulls. There are batteries that are new that claim they came from the original factory that made them, for like the Apple Foundry factory that was made by Apple. Those are typically the ones that you want to go for because they're going to be as good as possible. There are refurbs. Case, and there are good knockoffs where it doesn't have any sort of Apple logo or branding. It's completely aftermarket, but it's somewhat, but it is a good battery. So what I do is I will ask some, a trusted vendor, say, listen, I don't have the time to figure out for this specific model at this time what is available and what is the best. You're the one in China. I'm willing to pay you top dollar because I use these for repairs, not mostly resale. So most of the money comes from, somebody paying $400 for a board repair, and I have to throw in a battery. I don't care if it costs me an extra $3 or $5 to get a good battery. So find me whatever is the best. I don't have the time, like every single week, to figure out which is the best available. Whatever is the best available at the time, and this is what they find. Now, what I find interesting is when you import something with an Apple logo, they'll say, listen, this is saying that it's Apple when we did not authorize it to be sold to you. Even if I disagree with it, I can understand them saying, this is represented as an Apple part. I don't know who you are who's getting it. I'm going to take that from you. But what's really interesting with this case is that they will typically block out any logos. So let's say there was a factory that was making these for Apple that also made some for other people that were willing to pay for them. They will block out all the logos. Now what's being said is, hey, I know that you're not even representing it as an Apple battery anymore. You took our branding off of it. We're still going to take it. And that's what is really egregious, and that's what made me decide I am willing to spend whatever amount of money it takes to get to the bottom of this. Because if it's represented as an Apple, you can't have it. If it's not represented as Apple, you still can't have it. What am I supposed to tell customers? Like just duct tape a bunch of double A's together and put that in your computer? I don't understand what the answer here is other than just throw it away and buy a new one. So that's where and the second thing is a lot of people have said, well, you don't actually know what is in that box because you have not received it yet. And that is correct. I am inferring what is in the box based on what I have received prior to the seizure for several years from this individual and what I received after the seizure from that individual and from what I've heard. So they said, we sent you the same thing that we've been sending you this entire time. And they continued to send me batteries after the seizure, and they were sending them before the seizure. So I'm inferring and assuming that what's in that box is the same thing. For all I know, there could be a bunch of, dead pigeons or Cheetos inside of cases that say Apple, and I wind up looking like a complete fool to filing the case. But I think that's not very likely, and I think it's worth it to assume, based on Apple's prior actions, based on the suits they're making in other countries, based on history with my supplier and their history, that this is just the case of them saying, oh, looks like it goes to an Apple computer, take it. Oh, it may have had a logo that they scratched out, I'm taking it.
I had a question for Leonard, and it's okay if you don't know the answer to this yet. But I guess there might be some confusion about what
Ano mo ba, Mad?
in the seizure is versus
Okay.
borders and customs.
Until I hear more,
Yeah.
I'm doubling down on my answer
Yes,
from my
he's been
last video that I, at this time, don't know that Apple
Yeah.
had sort of an APB out on Lewis. It's possible, and we might find out that they did. But at this time, there is a normal
Alright, so
reason why batteries might be seized, even just a one crate of batteries or one shipment of batteries. They do spot checks. They often miss a lot of stuff. But Customs and Border Protection is also the second largest revenue generating entity for the U.S. government behind the IRS itself. $30+ billion of tariffs and fees a year and all that. And this is exactly the kind of thing they do, is check these things. So this could be routine, or this could be that Mr. Rossman is being targeted by Apple because of his views or policies.
I think if I had to look back on it, it's more possible that it was some sort of random spot check. But I would say that I think that Apple, if I had to guess, pushes customs more to check for their stuff than other companies are, because I don't see this happening as much. Somebody just mentioned in my chat, you don't understand the law. What you're doing is illegal. It's gray. This is a gray market, and that's not exclusive to Apple. But what is particularly exclusive to Apple, in my opinion, is creating an entire ecosystem where this problem exist to begin with, where if you want, again, other companies are going to say, you know, why are you importing not something for our product that's not authorized by us, but other companies are not siphoning off the solution so that you can't have a solution. Yeah, other companies are not creating this problem where you cannot get, the only answer is buy a new one.
There's an iPhone 6 here as well, 6 Plus, 6S Plus. What's that in for?
Some answer in between there.
It just comes up in the iTunes
I'm hoping
logo.
that we'll be able to find that answer in this as well. That there is that this will be a situation.
It just
where
says
batteries may
okay
be
to
shipped
proceed,
improperly,
okay
or
to
they're
LCD,
always
£50.
shipped improperly, and the Customs Border Protection just caught it this time, or maybe they're always.
No,
shipped
Shahid, I
properly
can't press
and
the
they're doing
assist,
this spot
that
check
assisted
and
touch
then
button.
overstepping their boundaries.
No.
We're going to end up finding out very shortly here.
I guess there's one way to find out, and I'm willing to go ahead and
Yeah,
see how the case
general
goes.
settings, yeah. Let me
Either
get
it's
into
either
the
this,
password.
or I just accept the fact that I have to tell people, sorry, your battery's dead. Duct tape a bunch of double A's together or buy a new one.
Well, ultimately, I don't think it's illegal to import.
Alright,
or
I might have
someone
a
make
spare
a
one
replacement
with my
battery
able,
for
you know,
Apple.
an original broken screen
This-
here,
the
because
question is,
I've been
at what
keeping some
point
one or
does
two,
it
you know,
become
iPhone 7
an Apple
Pluses and stuff
trademark
like that, you know,
issue?
original broken,
If,
just in
so
case
we're gonna be
something like this
investigating
happens.
the exact source of these batteries and the condition that they were shipped and what labeling is on them and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that should give us a lot of clarity
Yeah, no problem.
on
Yeah.
why customs sees this particular shipment of batteries. Or not. Or
Yeah,
it
let me
might
just connect
reveal
your
that-
Wi-Fi
that
now.
it's as gray as we
Alright.
hoped it wasn't.
Yeah, or again, or we could figure out that they shipped me batteries where they didn't cross out any logos. They look like Apple batteries and they're filled with Doritos. It's completely possible.
Yeah.
At the end of this, I look like
Yeah.
better.
What I'm wondering if it's going to be
Yeah.
a situation that's really on the line where it's say
Alright, yeah.
quality batteries, but it's arguably really on the line.
Wait 1
something to
minute, I'm
say,
just
well, Apple
getting
should be able
frustrated.
to control what batteries come out of the factory, but they shouldn't be able to say that Lewis can't order batteries that are of the same specifications and high
right.
quality at that, but otherwise don't
Connected
have
to Wi-Fi
Apple
now.
branding or logos. So I have a feeling it's going to be an answer that or I have maybe not a feeling, but I'm hoping it's not going to be. But I sort of have a gut feeling that it could be something that's not going to be a nice answer for Apple or Lewis.
No, not really.
But,
A printable
we'll
crack.
certainly cross that
It's
bridge
just
if we
going
get
onto the
there.
thingy.
Yeah, and I mean, it is possible that this winds up making me look like a complete idiot, or it's possible that it winds up making them look incredibly petty. There was this one idea that my friend Jess had of going to China, buying.
Let me just see if I can
iPhones at the
update you a
Apple
few
store,
seconds now.
Going to China. After going to China,
Go on general.
talking,
Software
taking them
update.
apart and sending the parts to a bunch
Update. Your phone is up
a
to
bunch
date.
of
Your
repair
software is
shops
up to
saying
date.
that they're Apple OEM screen, Apple OEM battery,
Yeah.
and seeing what happens.
What's it
One
called?
of my friends
12.1.
who visited recently had a seizure.
Alright, so then I'll do that then.
by
I'll sort that
one
out.
of the agencies, and they said, yeah, if we don't
Alright,
check
then.
if we see the logo,
Yeah, no.
that they will
Okay.
seize it.
So
And that's interesting to me.
and this is the difference between counterfeit products and aftermarket products.
No.
If you buy a genuine Apple product
Now I
and
know
take it
what's
apart
happening
and
to
sell
that.
the parts, you're
Apple
absolutely
being
allowed to do
ridiculous.
that. Whether you can then import those becomes a different issue depending upon the country's laws. And honestly, I'm not familiar enough. Back to that Rule 1.1 competence. I don't know exactly where the law is on there, so I have to do my research and acknowledgement that I'm a copyright attorney and that I can guide through this. But it'd be better to have an expert for the actual litigation part. We're going to be hiring an expert litigator. Now, in the law, I'm not supposed to say expert or specialist because part of, believe it or not, that Rule 1.1 competence is that any attorney can become competent. So if I say expert or specialist, that sort of forecloses your thinking. It forecloses your thinking on, well, other attorneys could be experts or specialists as well. So we're only allowed to say things like we're certified in something if we're certified. I think there's one or two very special certifications that get to call themselves experts in certain kinds of law, but it's very rare. So we're going to be hiring a I'll put it this way. This is how attorneys get away with it. Well, I'll be hiring an attorney who focuses their practice on international trademark litigation and deals with customs and border protection all the time. And that, I think, will be the way for us to go here.
All right. So what would be the difference between, let's say, what you would be covering, and the second attorney would be covering?
Well, yeah. When you originally contacted
Okay.
me,
The
you had
7
said,
Plus,
hey, you
guess
know,
what's
I
happened
know
with the
you're
7
friends
Plus?
on YouTube, and
8
my
Plus.
friend probably knows me
It's
pretty
fucking
well,
Apple
and
fucking out with the
I
phones, aren't they?
understand business,
They
and
tried
I'll be
2
able to
free screens
translate that
yesterday, which wasn't
for
working.
the
We
attorney
only
that
worked
you
on
hire
her
as
screen.
litigators. And I often like to tell clients that this usually saves money because we won't be doubling up work. I won't be spending a lot of time doing something I'm not competent
No,
in.
I was thinking, why did they say that?
Nor will we be spending a
Who's
lot of
saying
time
that?
getting the litigator up to speed on what Lewis does because we're going to be translating that as efficiently as possible. So I'm more or less the attorney finding the attorney that will do the actual litigation.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing that a lot of people seem to be asking is, why don't you buy the one that doesn't have a logo? And one of the things I would absolutely love is to be able to actually pay extra to tell the factory while you're making this. Can you just, instead of like having it removed later, can you just, it would be nice to be able to not have to deal with the logo nonsense altogether. I don't want to actually represent this as an Apple battery. I want to represent it as a battery that will work in a Mac computer. And the reason we didn't buy the ones that where you don't have to cross out a logo is because those are typically made by another factory that's making the stuff that's like a quarter of the way to the original that works like that. So a lot of people are thinking, you're trying to do this because you want to represent a battery. Why they would put the logo on there, only to then have to cross it off or scratch it out if the goal is to make it look like it was the original. I mean, it would just make sense there to not cross it or scratch it out to begin with. I've probably gone over that point like 4 or 5 times already, but I guess the next time I see it asked, I can just tell somebody to rewind. Well, what are the questions are there any specific questions that your viewers have concerning the case?
We have a whole bunch of questions. I have to go through and look through our document really quick. Give me a couple minutes.
All right, this should be fun.
No, my main questions right now are getting to know the exact origin of the batteries, whether they're brand new, whether they're taken out of otherwise broken Apple products and then repackaged so they can be shipped to Lewis for reinstallation in other Apple products. There's several scenarios here, and I'm not exactly sure how they each play out. And my gut feeling is that it's perfectly acceptable to remove batteries from broken products and put them into, test them and put them into other products. It would be maybe a more gray line or even maybe a violation if a factory is making Apple batteries with Apple logos that are brand new, and instead of selling them to Apple, which is the primary supplier, or they're the primary supplier for something, they're selling them to Lewis. That is going to depend on what agreements and what country and what laws and all that, and we'll have to see how that plays out. And I can't really guarantee whether it's going to be one way or the other. What we're going to do is figure out the best way to get through it, and the best way to, show everybody, with Lewis's permission, of course, how international customs and border protection works with regards to these kinds.
Today's guest on the show is John Bumstead. John Bumstead ran a business reselling and refurbishing MacBook computers. He would source these machines from recycling centers and businesses that would otherwise be thrown away in the trash and devices never to be used or seen again. He takes these machines, makes them work, and sells them for around $79 to $179 on websites like Amazon to people who otherwise would not be able to buy higher-end used or new machines. John Bumstead's customers are people who are often introduced to the world of Apple through this gateway drug of cheaper $100 older computers. John Bumstead's business took a big hit recently when Amazon sent an email to everybody selling used or refurbished items on their website, telling them that within 2 months they would no longer be allowed to do so. I really want this conversation to draw attention to not just what Apple is doing in trying to twist Amazon's arm to not allow third parties to resell refurbished products, But to give you an idea of just how little loyalty large e-commerce platforms have to their sellers, even if you spend a decade paying them high fees and building your business around making customers on their platform happy, even if you built everything around these platforms, they are more than happy to kick you off, erase you, and kick you to the curb if a slightly better opportunity comes along. There is no loyalty, which is why it is very, very important that if you are building your own e-commerce business, that you put as much effort as possible into building your own platform. That being said, let's get started with the interview. Can you just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your company and your history in business?
Sure. I've been in business for more than 10 years, hard to believe. My business is called Roadkill Incorporated, RTKL Incorporated. And what I do is I buy thousands of broken computers from mostly electronics recyclers in as-is broken condition. I buy them very cheap. I buy them by the pallet a lot of the time. So I buy thousands of MacBooks, bring them in, repair them, refurbish them, piece them together, and then I sell them mostly wholesale, so mostly to people who sell on Amazon or exporters or people who have shops or sell computers, that sort of thing. I do also sell on Amazon, obviously, like I'd say computers also on Amazon, which is why I got this letter. But that's kind of the basic breakdown of my business. It tends to be machines that are older because machines have their first life, their first 3 to 5 years. Then the corporations, government, academia sort of discard those, turn them into the recyclers. Then the recyclers, then I buy from the recyclers. And so I think I give the computers a second life. I refurbish them and put them out there for their second life. And the entities involved obviously get money when the computers sold again. So that's probably.
So, John, for you, you're selling the old stuff that is probably not certainly not anything that Apple's going to fix or refurbish. So they've eliminated not just you, but anybody. They've eliminated access to all of those machines that you sell that are like the really affordable stuff for people. That's just going to be gone.
That's what it's looking like. I mean, one of my most popular computers is the A1342 2010 white unibody, which, you can laugh at the fact that it's a 9-year-old computer, but until 2 months ago,